When we think of menopause, the physical symptoms like hot flashes typically come to mind, but our next guest says there are psychological symptoms that are often overlooked. We welcome nurse practitioner Ellie Bremer to Virginia this morning. It's great to see you, Ellie.
Hey, good morning, Jessica. Thanks so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. You and I have had a conversation before talking today, and we talked a little bit more in depth about this topic of anxiety and menopause. And this is something you're incredibly passionate about, really shining the light on, because this journey to understanding starts earlier than many of us appreciate.
Yeah, so I've been passionate about anxiety and menopause, researching that concept for the past 10 years. And as you said, it is often overlooked with the emphasis on hot flashes, which can definitely impact quality of life for women. But these psychological symptoms are not as well understood, especially the anxiety part. When we think about that, it can conjure the image of hand wringing, pacing, but the symptoms may actually be a little more subtle. And as you said, they can definitely start much earlier in life. We do know in the perimenopausal period is when women experience a lot of these symptoms. And it can be so subtle that women just wonder, what's wrong with me? Something's just not right. I just don't feel right.
So as you mentioned, typically we associate the hot flashes with that period of menopause. And so you wait and wait as you're approaching this pocket of time and think, oh, I got them, I didn't get them, here they are, now I'm in menopause. But what you're suggesting too in this research is that anxiety could start so much earlier, potentially is starting earlier, and maybe is an early indicator.
It sure could be. We do know that mood symptoms, as I said, in the perimenopausal period, are starting with the fluctuation in the hormones, and it's just really the awareness that psychological symptoms can be associated with menopause. I think when we look at symptoms, certainly hot flashes are at the top of the list, and then a lot of these are grouped together in just labeled mood symptoms. And you look at the anxiety and depression are two, and like I said, they can be more subtle. In my research that I did, one of the interesting findings was that most of the women had no idea that the anxiety could be associated with menopause. And so that was very interesting, kind of prompting that message to healthcare providers that education could be considered and should be considered a first line intervention for this. A lot of the women said once they found out or realized that the anxiety could be associated with menopause, it in itself reduced the anxiety, and they had a better understanding of what was going on and could try to self-treat.
Because maybe in simple terms, when these symptoms of anxiety are starting to present and you're going through this, but you don't know why, that elevates the anxiety. And then when you have this association and think, oh, okay, I understand what's prompting this a little bit better, that helps reduce it.
Absolutely. That's what the participants in my study did say.
So the takeaway from this, Ellie, certainly is awareness, which we're talking about this today. So having these conversations more with others, and certainly talking with your care provider, maybe starting this conversation yourself with your care provider.
Absolutely. And we do recommend the conversation should start well before symptoms start. And for some women, that may be about 35. Just so they have a better idea of what's coming and can be better prepared. And several women in the study said they were reluctant to talk to their healthcare providers because they felt like, oh, she's going to prescribe medication and I don't want medication. And I just want to reassure women, do have that conversation with your healthcare provider. There are so many non-pharmacologic interventions that you can do, and medication doesn't always have to be the first go-to.
That's right, but having the conversation first is the key. Ellie Bremer, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica.
Absolutely our pleasure, and great to shine a little light on this. For more information, visit elliebremer.com. We'll have a link on our website by later today, WTVR.com/VTM. Stay with us. There's still more Virginia This Morning to enjoy right after this.